Are you ready to make 2017 the year you transform your life?
You can wait for something to happen, or you're actually going to decide to go home after this weekend to do something about that. We all know that we have a very, very limited amount of time on this earth. So let's not have repeated years. Live your own life. Make the choice, make the decision for your own life. Fear is where you develop courage. There's a moment going, holy crap, all right, I'm going to do this now.
The wellness breakthrough is coming.
And so you actually have that choice every single morning, every single day, every single moment to decide whether you're going to live it to the fullest or not.
Join myself, Marcus Pearce, and the wellness guys, Damien Christoph, Lawrence Tam, and Brett Hill for 2 nights and 3 days of transformation at the Country Place. 10 acres of breathtaking rainforest in the Dandenong Ranges of Victoria, February 17 to 19.
It's each and every single one of you are going to support each other in your journey, whatever that journey is.
Couples discounts available, limited spots remaining. For all information and to watch the spine-chilling video, go to thewellnessbreakthrough.com.
TheWellnessCouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives. This is Up for a Chat with Cyndi O'Meara, Karen Smith, and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. I'm Karen Smith.
I'm Kim Morrison.
And I'm Cyndi O'Meara. Now, I have 2 amazing women here. They've morphed in their careers. I have Sue Barron, who's the brightly coloured one in orange. Cara Henstridge, who is the blue coloured one. Anyway, both of these have been nurses in their career, and I think Cara still is nursing. But what they are now is they're DNA practitioners, and they work with Smart DNA, which is in Victoria. And I want them both to introduce themselves, what they've done, why they've gone from, a medical background to what they're doing now, which is still got a medical feel to it, but it's also looking at the microbiome as well as alleles and SNPs, and we're going to learn all about those. So this is an extension for all of you in your education and learning more and more about where the future of medicine is and where the future of nutrition is. So welcome. Cara, let's start with you. Let's talk about, firstly, why you are doing Smart DNA and where you've come from in your career.
So I started nursing for nearly 30 years now, which I can't believe. And one of the things that got me interested in nursing was my fascination with the human body. When I was studying high school in biology and chemistry, I just was absolutely overwhelmed with how amazing our bodies are with the functions they do and what they do. And that led me into, I could have gone to medicine, but I wanted to do, I suppose that was my nurturing side came out in wanting to do the nursing side of it. So, I've been doing it for 30 years now. It's not something I wanted to do forever, and I've been searching for something different to do that's outside of nursing. And part of my, I've had my own health and wellness issues over the years, which I still continue to have, and still struggling to find what it is that I might want to do outside of nursing, but still use the skills and that I've built up from that. Then a couple of years ago, I had known Sue for about 10 years in the past through something totally unrelated to DNA. And then I went to a talk where Sue was presenting a couple of years ago, and my total experience with DNA testing was all around disease. So it was all through the traditional medical model where it was testing whether you had genes for certain diseases, etc. It was all about illness and whether you were going to had a high chance of getting ill with certain diseases. So my exposure through with Smart DNA was about wellness and how you could have an impact on your health and wellness, and that just blew me away because I thought that is just brilliant, and it was using something for a very positive thing, and it reignited my passion about health and wellness and about the body and how amazing it is. And I I've done a lot of reading and all that, and I've had my own DNA since then, and just discovering that it's that whole, the more you look into things, the more you realise you don't know. And just this whole world it's becoming of doing wellness genomics. You can certainly see other people talking about it, whether it's online groups or whatever, but all around taking control of people. The people taking control of their own health and wellness. And I just love that it's for such a positive reason. I love the way Smart DNA works and operates, and I have loved Sue's philosophy around how she presents the information. You do get from Smart DNA a very comprehensive report, and then we actually sit down, because I'm being very much mentored by Sue to do the same thing, sit down with people and go through it in great detail. So you get the very practical side of things that you can do day in, day out to improve your health and wellness and your life, and that, and how you feel every day as you go about your life. And it certainly had a big impact on me, and I wanted to then not just use it for myself. I want everyone to have their DNA tested. I just think the information that I get is just so exciting, and I think, oh my goodness, everyone needs to know this about themselves, because it takes some guesswork out of how your body works. And I know your DNA is not everything, because your microbiome and everything has a big impact on how your body works as well. And all your environmental factors and all that, but it's how you react with your environment, with your genes, that's so important. And I just think it's fascinating, and I wish everyone could do it, because it just gives you some control and knowledge about yourself. And I love that, and I love the philosophy and the way that Smart DNA and Sue works, and I admire that, and I'm teaching myself that with her help and to become a practitioner and develop that as a way out of the traditional medicine model that I'm working under, which very much is the illness model, not a wellness model. And I really want to get out of that, not just for my own health, but for everyone's health. The health system's not in a good place. It's not got a good philosophy in the way it's run as a business, etc. It's not about helping people necessarily, and there's great people in there, don't get me wrong, but the overall, it's very hard for them to function in the health system as such. And I think this is a great way to help people, give them information, give them control for them to work on their own health, which is what I think a lot of people are wanting, particularly those with problems that are not being, one of the very expressions, solved by traditional medicine, or not traditional, I should say conventional. I think traditional has been around for thousands of years. With more modern medicine, it's only been around a couple of hundred. I don't think serving a lot of people in this world these days, and people are looking for answers. And I think this is a tool that does give you not just some actual scientific answers that's got scientific backing to it, but action steps and things that you can take to improve your life. And I just think it's fantastic. I want everyone to do it. That's my dream anyway.
How I teach, and my students know this, is that, I teach historical perspective, and I talk about natural foods. And I would say up until about 2 decades ago, we were able to help most people by thinking naturally, giving them the foods that they needed. But with the way the world is going, the way the amount of chemicals, the amount of, we're talking about methylation and all of those things that are happening, and because our microbiome is completely out of whack, that sometimes we need these tools in order to, not guess. And back in those days, I don't think we were guessing. It was just, let's feed the body the way it should be fed. Mm-hmm. But I think we've done things to the body epigenetically, we've done things to the body generationally, that we're starting to change things. And that's, I guess, one of the things that we learn with DNA testing, is that what is changing. So let's go to you now, Sue. And this is Sue Barron. And Sue Barron also started as a nurse, but she hasn't been one for quite some time. So, Sue, do you want to just give a background of what you do? And I think it's really important that you throw that husband of yours in there.
Okay. Look, I'm originally from New Zealand, and I grew up on a farm, so life was very simple back then, and and it was a great life. Then I did my nursing training, met my husband, he's a doctor, he's a cardiologist now, and I did my nursing training, I said that. So we were very much into the sickness industry back then, and I did that for about 15 years, moved to Australia and left that model and brought up my children. And I never went back, partly because of a few issues that came up along the way with my family and health issues, etc. So And then I discovered the wellness industry and decided that that made so much more sense than the sickness industry. And it wasn't until my son was born, and he's now 21, he's 19. My daughter's 21, he's 19. And, but he was diagnosed at 3.5 with autism. And I decided that we had to try and find a way that he could lead a normal life, because I believed he was born totally normal, and this somehow, he tipped into the autism spectrum at some stage in his early years. And I thought, right, there's obviously a way, there's a reason this happened, there's a way out of it. So certain things, you know, we tried a lot of things along the way that were safe. I wasn't prepared to do anything that was not safe, and that was, you know, anything that was safe and reasonably natural we would do. So it was, look, quite a few things had made a lot of difference to him. One of the big things was boosting his glutathione levels, and that's one thing I'm very passionate about, because that made a massive difference to him. And it was actually a year later that I met Dr. Margie Smith from Smart DNA, and it was through meeting her that I decided we needed to get our whole family's DNA mapped out, because I thought that would give me some answers, and it did. You know, it gave me answers as to why he had responded. It gave me answers as to why he was predisposed to autism in the first place. It gave me answers as to why my father was predisposed to Alzheimer's and ended up with Alzheimer's. I totally got that from his DNA. And for me, I'm extremely toxin sensitive. It gave me answers as to why I was and why I was beginning to suffer. My house was suffering, and, you know, I was lacking energy. I had so many aches and pains, which I soon learned that I was storing a lot of toxins in my body and didn't have the ability to get rid of them, because my body doesn't have the ability to make glutathione, and it doesn't have the ability to make other antioxidants that the body naturally normally produces. So it was the DNA that gave me a lot of answers. It gave me answers as to why I had 3 miscarriages, you know, before I had my children. And, you know, I thought, my gosh, this is information I wish I'd had back then. It would have taken away a lot of pain and suffering. And if I had known that then, you know, I remember feeling like, this is so unfair. My friends are getting pregnant and having their children. I keep losing mine. And it was methylation. And you talked about methylation. You know, I'm homozygous for the 677T, and I'm 70% compromised and reduced enzyme activity with that particular MTHFR gene. And, you know, had I known that, I wouldn't have taken folic acid. I would have taken an activated form of folate, and things would have been different. And, you know, I totally recognise that now. But, you know, it was actually through our journey with Sam, my son, that my husband, who had been very conventional, you know, hard-nosed conventional medicine, nutritional supplements, were just expensive urine, and really didn't understand the power of nutrition. And what he saw happen to our son totally changed the way he practices as a cardiologist. And he has now decided that preventative cardiology there's a huge gap in the market for preventative cardiology, and that's something he's wanting to get into. So, you know, he's self-taught. But he does as much learning about nutrition now as he does about, you know, the conventional side of medicine. So, which is great. But so yeah, DNA, understanding our DNA gave me a lot of answers, and I decided that, right, a lot of people need to know about this. We are so lucky that we actually have an insight into what could happen and that we can prevent it. I didn't know that. I've been through things in my life that have probably made me stronger, but I needn't have necessarily gone through them. And other people, if they've got that insight, can prevent going through that. And I think that's really, really important. I know, for instance, with my own DNA, I'm like a the canary in the coal mine. I'm extremely toxin sensitive, so anything that's going to affect anyone is going to hit me first. And that makes sense when you look at my history with my father with Alzheimer's, a son with autism, and the fact that I believe I was never diagnosed, but I believe I was probably heading down the fibromyalgia line. And you think, well, it's nice to be able to prevent that. If I could have prevented all of that, it would have made my life a lot easier. I'm really healthy now. I feel like I'm back in my 20s rather than in my 50s, which is fantastic. So I'm extremely grateful I have the information that I have. It's made a massive difference to my life, absolutely massive. It's made a massive difference to my family's life and also to a lot of other people who have had their DNA done. And I get people all the time that come to me saying, we've gone down, all the routes medically wise. We've even gone to naturopaths. No one's got answers for us, and they come and see me and have their DNA mapped out, and it gives them answers. I'm not saying it always, cures them or anything, but it gives them answers. They understand how their body functions better, and they can take actions to start to upregulate those good, healthy genes and downregulate the disease-causing genes. And so many times it changes their quality of life significantly.
Now, you're both DNA practitioners, and you work with Smart DNA. And one of the things that Smart DNA does is the microbiome. So we'll briefly talk about testing for the microbiome and the different ways in Australia, or the two different ways in Australia that it's tested for. Because I listened to Jason Horlick, and he compared the 5 places in Australia that we get the microbiome tested, as well as one in the US, which was biome. And he said that basically some test for RNA and DNA, and for ones that we know the microbiome exists, we've sequenced that, versus some test as a culture. Would you explain what Smart DNA do with the microbiome? Or is that...
You're asking me a question. You need to ask Dr. Margie Smith that question, and I think you need to interview her because, look, I've had mine done. I haven't got a great understanding of it. I do know, look, it's a reasonably comprehensive test. Looked at a lot of different bacteria. It's only bacteria that they tend to look at the moment, and then you try and look at balancing those bacteria and getting rid of. I know for my own instance, I had a really nasty inflammatory bacteria in my gut that I needed to get rid of, something called Prevotellocopri, and often predisposes people to MS or autoimmune, and something that I actually didn't realise that I had, but had no idea that I would have had it. And I've since retested, and that has been totally suppressed. But any hard questions there, I need to put you in touch with Dr. Margie Smith, and you can interview her. She'd be delighted.
Do that. We will do that with Margie, but I do know that they do sequencing through DNA and RNA as opposed to culture.
Okay.
Anaerobic bacteria, and this is for the students. So we have anaerobic bacteria a lot in our, like the distal part of our small intestine, as well as the large intestine. And when you expose that to oxygen, they may pass away. They die. So when you get the deposit of feces and you send it off, it's exposed to oxygen. So with DNA sequencing, even though they're dead, we still get to do that. And so there's a vast difference when you send them to uBiome, Smart DNA. I can't even remember all the ones that are there at the moment. And they're finding that they have different, not different tests, but they have different findings. And when they have different findings, then how do we know who's correct and who's not? So it was very interesting listening to Jason Horlick do this, because what he did was he tested his poo to the sex, and he found that everybody came up with something different. And with what they came up with, you would treat differently. So we will talk to Margie, and I will talk to her about that, because that would...
Yeah, do. She's the expert. I totally am not.
All right. So what we will talk about is the DNA testing that we do for the human being's DNA, not so much for the microbiome's DNA, because remembering that we are 90% microbiome DNA and we're 10% our DNA. And when they did the gene sequencing and they understood that we only had, 26,000 or 28,000, they went, okay, hang on, that's not much more than a worm. There's something happening here. But they are still important. So can you explain to me what the DNA sequencing is all about? How do you get that information from us? Is it blood? Is it saliva? Is it urine? So let's start at the basics. Then when it gets to your lab, and then when it gets to you, and how you, because many times, especially with 23andMe, you just get it back and it looks like a load of another language, a Latin language at that, you know. Let's talk about, Cara, do you want to talk about how is it that you get our DNA? What do we have to do here back at my office?
It's a saliva test. So you just need to, just going to get one. So it's just spitting into a tube. You only need a mil or so of saliva. And they have children's ones as well, which are just a swab, which you can swab on their gums in their mouth. So I think you spit into the tube literally, just for a little mil, and then that gets sent off to the lab. So, yeah, very easy. Just about a mil or two.
Yep.
Yeah. So you just can't eat or drink for half an hour beforehand. And then, so then you just got to produce a little bit of saliva.
Just from there to there. Yeah. And then there's preservative in the lid.
Okay.
So the lid, you close the lid and the preservative sinks down, and then you unscrew it, put a cap on and label it, fill out a form and send it off.
Yeah. That's easy. We can do that.
It's really easy.
And the lab's in Adelaide. So, and then they send the report back, which has, so it's 100 genes, and you get a 100-page report back. So there's like a 30-page summary at the front, and then that's expanded at the back with each gene. There's expanded explains it. Explains about the gene. It's in colour, so it's got colour code as to whether you've got the red, which means it's not such a good.
Red means action.
Yeah, you need to do something.
Red means you've got to do something about it. Green means it's okay. It's, the wild type. It's so-called normal.
Normal, okay.
Yeah.
And red needs this action. So it explains what the test is for, what it and then what it means, and then it gives you some action steps around if you've got a red, what you need to do, and even if you've got the green, sometimes it talks about what helps support that, what you should continue to do.
Would you like to give me an example, Cara, of one of those? Just
good one.
Like one that we all have heard of, like MTHFR or MTR or COMT, or one of the ones that
a really simple one is caffeine metabolism.
Oh, okay.
It looks at your caffeine metabolism. So it talks about what caffeine metabolism means. Then it gives you the genetic test results. So this person is a slow caffeine metabolizer. And then it explains what that means, and then it talks about what steps you should have for someone who's a slow caffeine metabolizer. And it'll be interesting because some people who come up with this red, they'll say, I have a piece of chocolate at night, I'm awake all night.
Yeah.
And people have these little moments of clarity and think, oh, that's why that happens to me, or that's why I'm like that. And it sort of sometimes can confirm things that you sort of knew about yourself, but you hadn't really either thought about, or you just thought you were a bit odd, or whatever. But that one's quite a common one where people say, oh, yeah, I can't have coffee after 3 in the afternoon, or someone who I know had theirs done, they just have one piece of chocolate after dinner and that's it, they're awake all night. Whereas I'm a fast metabolizer of caffeine. So, I don't have much caffeine, but it doesn't keep me up at night if I was to have a cup of tea, if I was out for dinner, say.
So this is me, and I knew a long time ago that I couldn't drink coffee. I would get palpitations from drinking coffee. So I've known, and then that just confirmed it, and I thought, oh, well, that makes so much sense. So, yeah, there is a plus with that because we hold on to the antioxidant content of the caffeine for longer, so we actually get more benefits from it, and there's been studies done to actually prove that. So, reduce risk of things like breast cancer when you are a slow caffeine metabolizer. So you might think it's a negative, but it's actually there's a positive that goes with it. So and we see that with quite a few genes. You think, I've got the mutation there, that's a negative. But quite often you can swing it around and there can be a positive as well from a different angle.
Can we do some terminology here? So I've heard you say a few things. So can we have the term allele, SNP, and mutation? Can you explain those three terms?
Okay, pretty much. A SNP is a variant, basically. So you've got the what do we do? It's a variant from the normal. So you've got a variant from the normal, and what happens is you get there's 4 letters. You get A, T, G, and C. There's these 4 letters, and you inherit one of those from your mother and one of those letters from your father, and A always goes with T, G always goes with C. So you'll inherit, for instance, so that's an allele. You'll inherit the A maybe from your mother, and you might inherit the A from your father as well. So that would mean you're homozygous. So a mutation is when it's a mutation from the normal. So you're not, they call it the wild type. You're not the normal. You've got a variant. You've got.
But how do they know what normal is? Seriously.
Exactly.
Normal anymore.
I actually don't know, because it's really interesting with my DNA. I've got a very ancient gene. When it comes to ApoE, I've got the ApoE4 gene. That's the very ancient type. Now, that was great for me back in caveman era, because I was a survivor back then, and there were no toxins. We hadn't reached the chemical age. I was more resistant to infection. We come to modern age, I haven't evolved, and I am really toxin sensitive. So, I have to be so careful about what I come in contact with, because I'm going to store all those toxins. I don't have the ability to get rid of them, and that's, I'm the canary in the coal mine. So,
and there's obviously, like what you're saying, a survival of the fittest. So
yeah,
the EPOE, I think that's what you said.
Yeah,
you could fight infection, but you can't handle toxins. And I'm learning this more and more. I hear that people with celiac disease are able to, or with the celiac gene, are able to handle parasites better than the ones that can't. And those with the BRCA1 and the BRCA2 were more fertile than not. So we're beginning to learn that these genes, even though they make us more susceptible to breast cancer, not saying that you're going to get breast cancer, they seem to have a benefit in them as well.
I know. I know. That's exactly right, and that's what I'm finding with these as well. You think, oh, that's a bad gene. It's actually not necessarily. There will be an upside to it somewhere, and then you've got to try and balance it out.
I love this, because I'm always against this good-bad thing. Bad cholesterol. And the genes were getting to me as well, with the variants and the alleles and the mutations. And for me, somebody who has a gene that expresses itself, such as in hemophilia. So I'm from a family of hemophiliacs, people with hemophilia. So we are very strong in that gene. But that was a gene that's expressed and is life-threatening, as is the gene, And so when I hear variants and when I hear alleles, but they're not necessarily expressing themselves, such as the celiac or BRCA1, BRCA2, then, I started to go, well, this isn't making any sense to me, because I know with hemophilia, it's expressed in the body.
They're diagnostic genes, and we're looking here at non-diagnostic genes. We're looking at nutritional genomics. So there's hardcore diagnostic genes, which I still believe for some of them, like the BRCA genes, and I don't think this has been totally proven. Well, there has. I was looking at a study just the other day, actually. People with the BRCA gene that drink coffee, more than 4 cups of coffee today, actually have reduced incidence of breast cancer. So, the environment still does affect that gene. And I've been working recently with some people with Huntington's disease in the family, and it's my feeling, and we get to see, but it's my feeling that maybe if we can not trigger that gene, that maybe it may not trigger. I don't know, and that involves keeping your antioxidant defense extremely high to try not to trigger it. But so much that we don't know, but it's worth a shot.
Yeah. So there is no way that lifestyle is going to change anything with someone with hemophilia.
No.
But because there's nothing about epigenetics that can change that. But with the BRCA and BRCA1 and 2 and even celiac, how we can influence them. So
So with those celiac genes, like if you've got any of those celiac genes, the two we look at, the DQ 2.5 and the DQ8, I think it is.
Because the Smart DNA does look at celiac genes.
And what's interesting is when people get a blood test, it's not actually completely reliable, because I've had someone come to me and say, oh no, I don't have any of the celiac genes. I've had my blood tested, and she was high risk of celiac disease. And I said to Dr. Margie Smith, what's the story here? And she said, the DNA is the most reliable. The blood test is actually not that reliable. So, which is really interesting. So you can get false positives or false negatives with the blood test.
Is that for tissue transglutaminase? Or because they used to use gliadin, alpha gliadin testing, and then they did tissue transglutaminase in blood tests, and so they've changed their tests quite a lot. I've found with it, and I know that different tissue transglutaminases relate to gluten being a problem either in the gut or the brain or the joints. So there's those testing, whereas we're looking at these this, and like I said, when I started this, I'm acting like someone who knows nothing, which I feel like I know nothing.
Oh, something, I don't think any of us, I have learned so much in the 5.5 years I've been doing this, Cyndi. I'm constantly learning. It's like this information is suddenly coming out there and becoming available, but we know nothing yet. This is so new.
It is. And my beautiful Dr. Stephen Myers, who is the person who is the head of education here, I've spoken to him about this. And he says to me, it's all very well and good to look at the SNP, but what's happening in the chain before and what's happening in the chain after, and what are the enzymes they're producing? So he's very wary. I must say, very wary, even though I think what you guys are doing is just fascinating, and I want to give him some information on this. But he was always, because that's all he does is he works in genetics, and so he questions this. But what I've seen, Cara, what she sorry, it's blown me, it's blown me away. And I've watched my daughter have her genetic testing done, and we realise that she doesn't have MTHFR, but she's got MTRR and she's got COMT, which is all in that methylation site.
Yeah.
So can we? I've got a million questions that are just rolling through.
Exactly, isn't it?
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
That's why I got so excited about it.
Oh, I bet you did, and the fact that you guys read these, blows my mind. That
if people open up their report, they'll look at it and they always say, I didn't know where to start. It's mind-boggling. There's a couple of things I could understand, and they're usually the basic ones like caffeine, slow caffeine metabolizer or something. But once we've gone through it with them, they go away. It takes us about 2 hours to go through it with them. And once we've done that, they have a far greater understanding of how their body functions and what they need to do about it. And the interesting thing is, Cyndi, even when it comes to exercise, we all know we should exercise. People know they should exercise when it's written here in this and it's about them, they actually go away and do it. Whereas they know they should do it. They don't know exactly what impact it's having on different parts of their body. Well, they vaguely do, but this is actually written here about them.
Well, in our course, we actually talk about the benefits of exercise on the gene, and especially the genes for health. And it's like they turn on 70% of them, when you do some movement. And when we think about our evolution, so we were talking about evolution before, and so when we're talking about evolution, we're looking at the evolution of the body. It always moved. It didn't, like, the three of us are sitting here now. Often I'm standing. I haven't got my standing desk up at the moment.
Okay.
Often I'm standing because I realise the importance of not just sitting all the time. So, yeah, we know that. What about...
We haven't changed, but the world has changed.
Yeah. Epigenetically, we've changed greatly. Genetically, we may not have changed.
A little bit, but not a lot.
Look at that EPOE thing sitting there. You're ancient.
I know, I'm ancient. Exactly. I know about it.
Ancient girl in a modern world.
Exactly, and she's living in a modern world. Yeah, I'll do a song for this, I'm sure. So, one of the things that I've learnt this year is I went to a bioceuticals conference, and Dr. Mark Houston, who's a cardiologist in Nashville, Tennessee, was speaking, and he talked about the current protocol for someone who's had a heart attack or, is not doing well. So it was 5 medications, Plavix, basically a Crestor or a statin drug, a statin drug, aspirin, beta blockers, and I can't remember what the fifth one was now. But he said 50% of people can't metabolize aspirin, and it causes a problem. Now, do you have this?
We don't look at that, and at some stage, Smart DNA probably will do a pharmacological report. They don't at the moment. Like, there's a few things you can ascertain from this, things like with the comp gene you were talking about before, people, it kind of magnifies, if you're on Ritalin, for instance, for ADHD, it might magnify the effects of that if you've got one of the mutations within the comp gene, and same with caffeine, it might magnify caffeine, but we don't look at medication at the moment with this. It's purely... look, there's probably things you can work out, but yeah.
So let's look at what you do look at then. Let's talk about the things you look at, and because I'm going all over the place, not knowing. Yeah. And I said when I started this, by the way, students, when I started this, I said I'm going to interview these girls as though I know nothing. Because I really don't. Cara's been annoying me for quite some time. It's like. This little sample.
Yes, there you go.
Oh, look, it's on your desk. It's fantastic.
That's been sitting on my desk. Here we are. We've got glutathione. We've got max ATP. A gut microbiome test. So Cara's been, annoying me for a long time. And
I knew you'd be interested.
I am, and it was like that one more thing I had to learn.
I know.
And all of a sudden I went, you know what, I don't have to learn this. I just have to interview you two.
And then when you did your education day, and there was so much genetic stuff in that too, which the last time I'd heard you speak on your education day was like 18 months earlier, and it's interesting how much has developed in that time, because I certainly see it everywhere people talk about the genetics, and you've obviously seen it too because it's coming up in your work as well. And I know when I sort of put it out there and took that step to actually register a business name and start a Facebook page, so many people came up to me, some from your education group, to say it's come up in discussion in the course, and they were after some more information as well. So it's certainly out there. We're all finding all this very interesting.
Look, I absolutely find it interesting, and I think when we look at nutrigenomics and genomics, and we're understanding that we do have variants, and the fact that you looking at 100, at least you're not looking at the whole freaking lot.
This is when you were saying before about 23andMe, the difference between 23andMe and Smart DNA is I've tried to decipher a 23andMe for a friend, and I looked at it and thought, I really don't know where to start here. There wasn't a lot of information. They look at a lot more gene SNPs. but it was almost like you get a lot of conflicting information because of that. So with Smart DNA, Dr. Margie Smith has taken the ones that she feels are really important, and a lot of them will override a lot of the smaller genes that, that may not be as influential. So, with methylation, for instance, she looks at the ones she feels are really, really important, and whereas I know 23andMe look at a bigger panel, but we get some really good information on this. When I looked at the 23andMe one for this friend, and I was thinking, I found it really hard to advise her on what to do because there was too much conflicting information there, and this I find a lot easier. It's set out really easily and isn't particularly conflicting. So
let's talk about some. So we talked about SNPs. Remember, we were talking about terminology. So we talked about being a variant of the norm, but we don't know what the norm is. But variant, got that one. I don't know if I'm any of the wiser, but I've got that one. What's an allele? Explain the terminology of allele.
An allele. What's the... You put me on the spot here. Margie Scott, she used to write the terminology down at the beginning, and I can tell you in a minute. I know what it is in my head, but when I try and explain it to other people, it's that one part. You inherit one allele from the mother and one allele from the father. So it's that A or that T that you inherit, which makes up that.
Pairing.
It's like the arms, isn't it?
It is. It is.
It's the chromosomes on the arms, and then
But the correct definition, Cyndi,
the official definition.
Margie will tell you what that one is. Like
correct definition about
my strength and Cara's strength is relaying to the public. So and simplifying everything. So we've got this whole book here of someone's report. And we need to try and make it so that they can understand it. And that's our strength more so than the scientific side of it.
That's fine. So the ATGC, they're the 4 amino acids. And one of them, I believe, is glycine. And I'm pretty sure.
Taurine, glycine, adenine, and... Taurine, glycine, and C. C is actually it's in her book. This is Margie's book. I don't know if you've seen this book.
No,
that's brilliant.
She wrote. It's been published just over a year ago.
My students will be going right now. Not another book.
Yeah.
And it's that. What I love about it is it's not only just been written by Margie. It was also written with a journalist, so that it's.
Easy for us to read.
Yeah, it is. And anyone can read it. You don't have to have a scientific background. It's and there's lots of great stories in there around people with their genes as well. And it's been put in a very, very user-friendly way, very easy to read. But it is fascinating. If you really want to get into it, it's really good.
Here we go. We've got adenine, we've got thymine, we've got cytosine. That's the C. And guanine.
It's guanine.
Guanine,
okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yes. So we know that they're the amino acids, and it's all different types of sequences that they do.
Yeah.
Now, is a mutation? Okay, we'll go to the third terminology now. Is a mutation like hemophilia? Is that the mutation?
Yes, it is. So it's a variant from the normal. Would be the so-called normal would be the mutation. So
I might have to get Dr. Stephen Myers to do a few terminologies for us. So that
his terminology would be far more scientific than ours is.
All right, let's then talk about the book that is given, and then you explain to everybody, what happens. Do you want to explain some of the ones that you are finding with more and more people? One of the things that Dr. Stephanie Smith talks about is that there's DNA methylation. So she's worried about in development what's happening to the gene sequences in development. And then there is cell methylation. So and a lot of the students have done a lot with methylation. You know, at the July conference in Melbourne, we had, what's her name, Nicole Avard. We had Dr. Nicola Avard talking about methylation. So they know a fair bit of it. Think about the ones that you see again at the moment, and what are the recommendations for that if we see that?
Okay, so you're wanting us to talk about methylation here? That's
anything that you are seeing.
Oh, anything. Okay, vitamin D.
Okay, that's the one. Yeah,
a really, really good one. Look, we're all generally deficient in vitamin D. A lot of us don't have the ability to absorb it from the sun. Okay, so no matter how much sunlight we see, some people will say, oh, but I'm tanned and I go out in the sun all the time. They can still have a really low level of vitamin D because they don't have the ability to absorb it. So when it comes back high risk of deficiency in vitamin D, that's alarm bells for me, and I say you really need to go and get your levels done. We need to know your baseline, because if it's sitting low at around 20, they need to do something quite drastically to get that up, because that's going to predispose them more to things like cancers or autoimmune or lots of different chronic diseases, but they need to get that up as quickly as possible. So, and a lot of those people will say, I have no idea what my vitamin D level is. They don't know, and they don't recognise how important maintaining a high level of vitamin D is. So and there's variants of vitamin D. So how do we know? Like I heard you say, you know, folic acid versus folate. Activated folate.
I want to go to that one. But the variants of vitamin D. So how do you know what like I know how vitamins and minerals are made, and I'm not always happy with it. Do you say eat liver or liver tablets, or do you say there's a specific vitamin D because of your SNP or your variant?
I tend to tell them to use vitamin D3 and to supplement with, look, the one I get is from Vitamin Research Products, and I buy it from the US. It's available online, and I tell people to go and get that one, or there may be another form of vitamin D3 that they want to get that they can buy online. I tend to tell them to use the 5,000 I use, and we can't get that here in Australia. They can only get the 1,000. And I'll sometimes have people who will say, I know my vitamin D was really low, it was around 20, so I take one spray or I take 2 sprays or something, and it's still not enough for someone that just does not have the ability to absorb it from the sun. And it'd be a bit like, you know, people that come from countries closer to the equator, they come and live here in Australia, they just don't have the ability to absorb it. Our sun cannot penetrate. They can't absorb it. So they will be people that will have really low levels very often, and you do see that. And they're the people that need to be taking a higher dose. So you kind of need to know your level rather than just guessing. Sure, they know they're at high risk. That's the trigger for them to go and get a blood test done. And I say, go and get a test done. You know what you're dealing with then you know how much you need to supplement, and if you need to supplement, but most people with vitamin D do tend to.
So what's the name of that SNP?
Margie looks at, okay, there's 2 here that she looks at. So there's DHCR7.
Yeah.
CR7. She looks at CYP2R1, so CYP2R1, and she looks at GC. So
there's a few of them. There's 3. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I can see that. Look at me going closer. Everyone will be going,
And then she's got this lovely pathway on here that actually shows where these where the problems are with these particular gene SNPs. So, yeah.
So in your
I don't look at that pathway too much, Cyndi. I just look at what she's written, and she'll say moderately increased risk, high risk, or slight risk, and you know straight away from that, okay.
Go get your bloods done.
Go and get your bloods done. Tell your doctor that you actually need to get your bloods done. There's a reason for it.
And for me, I never had my vitamin D tested till I was over 40, and it was low. And I battled for ages to try and get any rise, and I was taking some 5,000 supplements from an integrative GP, and it was really hard to get it moving up. And, tried more sunshine, etc. And then it wasn't until I had my DNA done. I'm red for vitamin D, so I've got very reduced. And I thought, well, no wonder I have trouble getting it up, because I'm not actually genetically as blessed to be able to do that. It's always going to be hard for me, and I probably will always have to supplement and make sure I eat my mushrooms that have been in the sunshine, because I know that apparently makes great vitamin D in the mushrooms if they've been in the sun and things like that. But it also made me look a bit more at myself. I used to get, in winter, I used to get the top of my thighs used to get really itchy, and even just a little bit into my arms. And it wasn't until I realised how low my vitamin D was and how bad I was at processing. And I only used to ever notice it during winter, and I thought I was having too hot of showers in the cold weather down here in Melbourne. And now we tracked it back that it was, my vitamin D was super low during the winter. It was just that little bit worse, because I do get out during the summer. So I do try and get more sun in summer, even though, because it's really only worth it in Melbourne to get it during the high summer time down here. And then, supplement as well, and eat more foods with the vitamin D in it. But I know now I really have to make a concentrated effort to keep up my vitamin D. Similar with my omega-3s, that was a big one for me. I'm allergic to fish and seafood, so I can't eat them. They make me very unwell. So I've always been aware that I probably should, have my flaxseed oils and do that, but I was very haphazard around it. But after having my genes done, I'm actually not good at processing my omega-3s and everything. And so it really makes me more aware that to me, with all the benefits of having your good omega-3s, I have to really focus on making that one of my priorities in my nutrition, is making sure that I do get that in there, because I'm not going to get it through your usual supplement ways or through food as much, apart from probably the flax oil that I do take.
We know that we have omega-3s are precursors to EPA and DHA.
Yeah.
So if you're allergic to fish, which is where our EPA and DHA is, except the DHA is in seaweed, then by only taking omega-3, let's say you take my inchi oil, which is very...
Yes, I'd take that as well.
Can you convert to EPA and DHA? Are you able to do that?
Well, I think so, because I certainly know when I can do it, but I am genetically compromised around doing it. So, but if I'm not getting enough in the first place, I'm never going to be able to process it. So
you're just prone to low levels.
Yeah.
So you're prone to lower levels, so you need to work harder at
keeping them up.
Yeah.
One of the things that people talk about with fish oils, and I just think this is a great conversation to have, is they talk about with fish oils, it says, we can't convert our omega-3s to EPA and DHA. We have a limiting enzyme. And I question always the limiting enzyme. But maybe it's a limiting enzyme in a percentage of the population, not the whole population. Because if you've got a SNP and you're not making enough of that enzyme, then you're not going to be making the EPA and the DHA that you need. So that has actually clarified something for me, because I go, well, if it's limiting, there must be a reason why it's limiting. And so I looked at fish and I went, well, how well do they convert to the EPA and the DHA? And they convert it between 9 and 12%. Humans convert omega-3s to EPA and DHA at a rate of 9 to 22%. So I figured we're better and more efficient at it.
Fish.
I was a little bit, but now I realize.
Unless we're compromised.
Yes. There's most people, and that's why they can't do it.
We're not all equal.
Brilliant. All right, let's talk about folic acid, because it's been in the news of late, and I don't know if you've heard about this, but there's a lot of babies being born with tongue-tied and lip-tied. And they're relating it to a SNP, and the women taking the folic acid and they're not processing it to the active form, it rolling around in the blood and causing midline problems. Now, tell me about what is it about that? Why can't they process folic acid into folate? What's happening there, or what are you finding out about folic acid?
Okay, well, I have that SNP, and I've got 70% reduced enzyme activity with that MTHFR gene for the 677T. So that means I'm an undermethylator. I'm a poor methylator. I'm prone to being an undermethylator unless I get enough B9, which is folate. So I can't convert folic acid, though, to its more activated form. I can't use it. So I need to take it in that activated form so that I can use it. So that's that 5-methylfolate. I can use it in that form if I can consume it in that form. I can also convert it in the food forms, but because I'm 70% reduced enzyme activity, I'm not going to get enough out of food to actually methylate as I would like to be optimally. So, and the marker for doing that is your homocysteine level. So, personally, I've checked my homocysteine level. That's your marker for how well you're methylating. Yeah. Mine was 12. Now, 12's the so-called on the high side of normal. It's too high. So I wanted to bring it down, and I've managed to bring it down to 6 by taking activated B supplement. So mine sits at around 6 or 7 now, quite nicely.
So activated B supplement, not just B9, just not folate? I
take the B complex because it's got a few other things in there that I feel I need, like choline. I've got issues with choline. B12, I've got some issues with B12, and I know you can't there is B12 in it. It's not probably the most bioavailable form being orally, but and same with B6. So I tend to take the B complex, the activated B complex. Look, I do sometimes take Methylguard, which is B9, which is folate, and the B12 and the B6, just the 3 of them. But I quite like the B2 is the other one, the riboflavin. I like to get that because I have an issue with riboflavin. I can't process, you need B2 for the whole methylation, and especially if you've got that MTHFR problem that I've got, I need to be getting enough B2 in my diet. So otherwise, the cogs in the wheel are not going to be turning. If there's an issue up here, even though I might have everything else, that's going to hinder everything working normally. So, I tend to take the B complex just because it's worked for me. It tends to work for most people. It's not expensive, and we see results with it.
Yeah.
That's my one.
All right. So, what about? So if a woman, let's say, now is it Ellen Vite? It's a
the pregnancy one.
What's it called, Ellen? So they're taking folic acid. Elevate, thank you. They're taking, folic acid. If a woman comes to you guys, they've had the Smart DNA done, and you recognise that they have the problem, Sue, that you have, then you would say stay away from Elevate. Would I be right in saying?
Absolutely. I would say you need to be taking the activated folate, and they have the choice. There's some prenatal versions out there that have got activated folate in them. So I steer them towards those, or they can take the B complex. There's nothing in that B complex that is not in those prenatal versions. So I understand the B complex quite nicely, and most people don't need to take the full dose of it. They just need, it might be 1 a day, it might be 2 a day, just to get themselves methylating properly. I don't like to see people taking too much, because you can flip the other way too. It can become a little bit of a fine balance, but quite often people just take the B complex during. Instead of a prenatal, but the choice is yes.
So, do you take it, like you said, they take 1 or 2 a day, but would you take it for a period of time, take time off, take it for a period of time, take time off? Is that what you're doing, like week on, week off, every second day?
I've found with me personally that I tend to take it most of the time, but I'm on maintenance now, so I only tend to take 1 a day, whereas I have taken a higher dose in the past to bring my level down, but now I only take 1 a day, depending on what the homocysteine level is. And I always say you need your homocysteine level done. We need to check what your homocysteine level is, and then let's work with that, and then we can recheck it again in a few months' time and just make sure that that it is coming down if it's been high. So, yeah.
Your homocysteine level will indicate to you that they're undermethylated.
Yep, absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about, let's say B12. Let's look at B12. Do you do a test that tells us how they test?
I often just say to them, get your B12 levels checked at the same time. Doctors will quite readily check their B12 levels. So they usually look at you when you want your homocysteine done, but they'll check B12. That's become quite mainstream. So then we can either, we can look at B12 and think, well, that's not the problem, or it might be part of the problem, but folate may also be the problem. And this is where the B complex tends to cover all bases a little bit. If their B12 is really low, if they're vegetarian, for instance, generally their B12 will be a lot lower, and that's when they might need a sublingual B12.
Yeah.
But because you can't get it, most of the B12 comes from meat or fish, or so when they're vegan.
Bacteria makes B12.
What's that?
If it's healthy, our gut bacteria will make B12. If it's
right.
But
okay.
Have had it decimated with antibiotics and herbicides and and all of those things. So if we have a healthy gut microbiome, it should be making B1, B2, all that B vitamins and vitamin K. It's that our microbiome is not enhancing our health because we've lost that ability to do it. Now,
I'm going to have to go. I'm really sorry. I've got an appointment that I'm meant to be at 5:30, so I'm going to have to fly. Cara can stay.
All right, Cara.
No pressure.
Let's finish up with you. You go, Sue. Thank you so much. I love this. My students love it because it's just so ad hoc.
It's really good.
All right, Sue. Lovely meeting you. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye. So there goes the expert. I'm still the amateur learning.
I think you might be able to answer a few more questions. So I love the idea that we are looking at our genes and our SNPs and everything like that and our alleles, and we can kind of prove it when we do a blood test. So one of the things, I think it's called A1C, that they're testing for at the moment. I think it's the A1C. Is there any correlation between A1C and a gene SNP?
What's A1C relate to? I mean, I haven't learned what all they are now yet. A1C? That might be here.
Heart and diabetes.
Is that your methylation? You're talking about that? Because I haven't learnt them all off.
No, you know what? I'm asking you the question because you brought it up in my mind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, well, all right.
I don't know them all off by heart yet.
You know when we give blood tests? Do you know when we give blood tests?
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about the HbA1c with blood sugar.
That's the one.
That's okay. I'm very used to doing that one. Yes. So that's to do with your. That's when you do. It's a 3-month how your body's working its your blood sugar levels.
Yes.
So yes. Yeah.
Is that correlated to something in that 100 that you do?
Yes, there's a few of the genes are done for type 2 diabetes, which is, hang on, I'm going to have a look at these ones up, 21. So, yes, they do look at a panel of ones for type 2 diabetes, about your risks of getting type 2 diabetes. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 related to type 2 diabetes. One of them you may have heard of, it's called the fatso gene. So, and that's to do with it's FTO gene. I know, they call it the fatso gene.
That's terrible.
I know. Some of them have got very interesting names. But yeah, that one's called the fatso gene. But that's the FTO gene. So so that's around your risk of having a higher BMI. So, and your risk of becoming obese. So that ties in. There's also a few genes that are around your weight loss and being able to lose weight. And having said that, I have some terrible weight loss genes because there's ones there that are around addiction, and some of them come back with your feedback mechanisms. You have reinforcement mechanisms and your feedback ones. And so, yes, there's a panel for type 2 diabetes and panel for weight loss. So there's some of them around your appetite, your feeling of fullness, and whether you feel full at the end of a meal or not, or whenever you're eating. And it's interesting when you see some people. I had a friend who had her genetic testing done. She doesn't have that gene. She never has that genetic variant to feel full. And the number of times she gets to the end of the meal, I said this to her afterwards. I said, every time we have a meal together and we've travelled together, etc., at the end of every meal, and she eats very well, she has a very healthy diet, she will say, I feel so full. I've just eaten way too much. She says that every meal I've ever eaten with her, just about.
So she doesn't have a stopgap.
Yeah, she just doesn't have that ability to feel full genetically, so we were talking about that because I've got that ability. I've got that gene variant, and I do feel full with most of the time when I eat. I get to a feeling of fullness. I said to her, though, it doesn't always mean I listen to what my body's telling me. Because if I'm out for dinner and I'm eating a beautiful meal and I'm feeling full, when I'm still got half a plate of food there, I think, I want to finish that. It may not be the best for my health. So it's interesting how you see how people do have those different feelings and different.
But you
recognise them yourself.
There are other things at play there. There's ghrelin, there's insulin, there's glucagon, there's all of these things at play. And like I type 2 diabetes, there was 7 genes, and that's what we know. There could be more out there. So it sounds like that everyone will have a SNP. But what I think I found fascinating is the whole, okay, if this is it, go and have a blood test and let's check on that. And it gives us an idea. When you get a blood panel done, there's so much stuff they do. And then there's so much stuff they don't do. And so you have to ask for it, such as homocysteine. They don't normally just do homocysteine.
No, and when I first had my test done, and that was on my little list of tests to go and have done, my GP wouldn't do it. She said no, she wouldn't do that at all. She refused. There was a couple of others she refused to do as well. Can't remember what they were off the top of my head, but I remember the homocysteine. She looked at me like I was strange. And I actually ended up going through my naturopath and changed GPs to a more integrative GP because I don't get sick as such. And so I very rarely go to my normal GP, but I had been seeing a different integrated GP. But I went and he said, yeah, of course. And he wrote the panel of the tests to get done so I could to check that out and make sure that I was on the right track with that. But I'm fortunate I have the better gene for the MTHFR, so that's probably helped me get through my life a little bit better. I may have some other issues, but that's one I don't have.
Wonderful. All right.
So it was interesting. My family doesn't have a history of cancer on either side. My family has heart disease on either side of the family, both genetically. So because there's a panel here that's around your lipid metabolism, etc. And there's a couple of ones like Sue was talking about, her ancient genes. That all comes into play in that, and that looks at what best diet is for you, etc. It recommends your percentages of fats, proteins and carbohydrates you should have in your diet based on your genetic lipid profile. And I found that fascinating because I actually had a good profile for my cardiac health, and I thought given that my family's got cardiac issues on both sides, I was convinced I probably have a really bad few reports there. But on the genes that is tested in this particular test, I'm pretty good there, which was good. And maybe given my situation being so overweight particularly, that's perhaps maybe saved me from having a cardiac event by my age, possibly. Who knows?
It's amazing because you can't always predict. I've seen very few people have heart attacks. I've been with a guy, he's 46. And the other day I was saying to him, he was looking at putting Nativia in his coffee. Oh. And I said, I'll just put sugar in. Why do that? You're a healthy specimen. And he looked at me and he said, well, actually, I'm not. Cyndi, I had a heart attack at 46. And I went, leave it alone. And he's this amazing, muscly, fit, gorgeous young man. That's And so you cannot predict by just weight alone because, like you just said. So what I would like to go, where I'd like to go from here is, okay, so to get a smart DNA test, do you go online? They can do it themselves. They don't need a referral?
No, you can go online and you can order a kit, and you have to find a practitioner to go through. So there is a list of practitioners on the the website, or you can contact Smart DNA. They'll put you into contact with someone.
So you're practitioners, aren't you?
Yes.
So how do they get in contact with you and Sue?
So you can. I have neither of us have a website, but I have a Facebook page called Max Your DNA. So MAXYOUR DNA. So Max Your DNA. You can go onto there and like my page, please. And you can message me through there, or you can email me at maxyourdna@gmail.com. So that's MAXYOUR.DNA.com.
Okay.
And then, we can speak to you or email back and forward, send you a kit. You can send that off. They do the test run every couple of weeks, so we usually say allow about 4 weeks to get the report back. Sometimes it's less than that. And then we organise to sit down and go through the report. So this, for me, I'm still very much training underneath Sue. She's been doing this for over 5 years. And she does Skype calls all around the world with people with this. Or if you're in Melbourne, we can organise to do it in person, or sometimes if we're interstate at different things, we can do it then. Otherwise, it's the beauty of the internet and video like this is you can do it whatever suits. It's great. So, and then, you get an emailed report, the 100-page report. Now, I'm a paper and pen girl, so I suggest to people they print it off and then we go through it, because I've written all over mine, because you do get a lot of information and I wrote all over mine, and now I need to go back to refer it, and that's just my personal experience. I think that's a good way to go, but whatever, if you can take notes electronically really quickly, if you're a more modern girl, go for it. And then, we sit down, and usually takes about a couple of hours. And I know I've been to other practitioners and taken my DNA test along. A lot of, there's a number of naturopaths and integrated GPs who might use it, but I've found they will tend to have a look at it and just give you a very brief rundown of what you should and shouldn't do. And that's why when I love Sue's philosophy of, you've spent this money to do it, and you want to get the most information because you want to action it. It's you. It's not going to change. It's your DNA, so that's not going to change. And you want to make the most of that information and get the most information. She's great. You're being contactable. You can email, and if there's a question she can't answer, Margie is very happy to answer it. And so that depends on the practitioner. So we charge $550, and that includes the report. Yeah,
report, the 2 hours with you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what else was I going to ask you about? So the kit's $550. That was easy. We just spit into the kit. What about if we do the microbiome as well?
So that's I can't remember. I have to get back to you with that. I can't remember how much the microbiome test is. I'm wanting to say it's a little bit less than that, but the person Sue refers to do the report from that's in Sydney, and I know when she did hers, she gave a comprehensive report with that, and then like a dietary program suggestion to follow to correct the microbiome, which Sue followed, and then did the test again a few months later to see the change. So that is something that does change.
Okay.
Of course, your gut microbiome, that's going to change over time. So, I'll have to get Sue to get back to you with how much that is.
Okay. Yeah. Now, a lot of my graduates and my undergraduates are business people. Is there an affiliate for Smart DNA and for you? Do you guys, so if they're sending people to Smart DNA or to a practitioner, as you and Sue are, is there an affiliate program?
I don't think there is at the moment. So I'd have to ask, and that would certainly be something that we could discuss with Margie. And Simone, who's her business partner in that. So I'm not aware that there is. I think you just go through the practitioner. I'm not sure if there's any plans for that either, but that could certainly be a question that I will ask Sue and Margie when I see her,
Look, I think it's important because we refer, like I'm referring to people all the time. People refer to me all the time, and I actually reward people for referring to us.
Yeah.
Like if they do the course, they know that they're going to get a nice sizable amount of money. And I think at the moment referrals are becoming more affiliate based.
Yes, you definitely see that.
And you need someone like you to do the practitioner and say what kind of diet they should be on, they know, my students know what I feel about supplements. I'm all into food. But I understand we're at a crisis in our life at the moment, and as long as we know where those supplements are coming from and how they're made, and they're not from genetically modified things, and we can, we look through all of that, then I think, there are sometimes reasons why we need to supplement. I know that with Casey, when we did her, we went through 23andMe, and we did microbiome through a culture one in Victoria. And I know when we did that and we looked at her SNPs and her variants, we realised that there was some supplementation she needed. She didn't need it lifelong, but she needed to at least she needed it. And then she got the tools to know when it was important that she go back to basics again and do the things that she needed to do there was so many things that she needed to do. But now she knows if she's running down, she knows, right, this is what I've got to do. So I think an affiliate would be really good if my program.
Well, I'll find out. I'm not aware of one, but I'll certainly find out if that's something that they're looking at, particularly because it is a growing and changing field, and I think that's important to look at how that's done.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've been going we've been going well over an hour.
Have we?
Yeah, look, I think this has been absolutely wonderful, Cara. I'm just going to have a quick word to the students, and then I'll stop record, and then we'll have a little chat after.
Okay, lovely. Thank you for this chance, and good luck to all you students.
I know what you've been saying to me, and I'm sorry it's taken me so long to come, but I think one of the things that I did learn at the Bioceuticals Conference to my students is that this is called precision medicine or precision nutrition. And with the way the world is and the chemicals and the toxins that are available and the DNA compromisation that we're now having because of methylation, because of not only DNA methylation but cell methylation, because of all the biochemistry we're starting to understand and the herbicides that are out there, I think that this is something that would be very smart for people to look at. So I'm going to sign out with you guys. You know my take on supplements, but sometimes, just like medication, we need to go to emergency measures, and this might be our way of finding precision nutrient intakes that we need in order to be, be better at what we're doing. I know I'm learning all the time. So.
All right. Well, tune in next time, all of our listeners. So join us here on Up for a Chat. Go to our Facebook page, allthews.facebook.com/Up for a Chat, or you can also reach out to us at allthews.thewellnesscouch.com/Up for a Chat. Leave us your comments, leave us your questions and your messages. Now join us here next week on Up for a Chat and become part of the ripple effect that's changing the world. See you next week, everyone.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavored to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.